The trial of Adam Montgomery is underway. He, of course, facing second-degree murder charges in the death of his daughter, Harmony Montgomery. It's already turning into a contentious battle in the courtroom, with the defense arguing that, you know what, this was not Adam. This was his wife at the time that had everything to do with it, and he has been sticking up for her all of this time. But he is guilty of falsifying physical evidence and abuse of a corpse. He has admitted guilt to that, simply not to the actual death of his daughter. Keep in mind, his former wife is not on trial here. It is Adam who is, in fact, on trial. But it's an interesting picture that's trying to be painted right now. Joining me, Shavaun Scott, psychotherapist and author. Uh, if you're a jurist on this one, you don't really have any credible witnesses to go on. One is saying this, one is saying that, and neither have any credibility whatsoever. How do you start to tackle this one and try to make heads or tails of anything?
Yeah, I think you can look at typologies of people. Adam is a hardened career criminal, history of violence, history of murdering someone, all these years in prison. I believe it was 9 years in prison. We have photos of his wife, Kayla, with bruising, severe bruising
Mhm.
inflicted by him. Odds are that Adam was not the ideal father here. And I think if I was weighing the evidence, I mean, how can you be anyone,
Mhm.
let alone a judge or a CPS worker, and think that this guy is going to be a safe parent or an adequate
Mhm.
parent? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just atrocious that Harmony was taken out of a stable foster care where she was thriving and placed with this guy who clearly had a secondary gain, if it was nothing more than to get her welfare money
Yeah.
that was being paid for her. It's just watching the testimony that I've been able to
Mhm.
watch, it just makes me
Yeah.
sick.
And then to continue to get the welfare money for her by not ever saying she's gone, which they
Right.
clearly found a way to keep taking those checks every single
Yeah.
month for several years.
Yeah.
Um, I can probably believe that this was not intentional. I can understand that. I don't think anyone truly did try to kill Harmony Montgomery,
Right.
but when you're that strung out and you're that much gone to reality and the rest of the world, it's easy to see how this actually did go down. But when we're looking at this, and one of the most heartbreaking things of the testimony that I've seen so far was the foster home that Harmony had gone into. And it seems like a loving woman, one who, really did care about her, was taking her to her medical appointments because Harmony did have some physical needs with her eyesight and such, and it was, in a good place. But then mom suddenly, she's good again, and she goes to mom. Then she's back to the foster home. Uh, this is a system that obviously needs a lot of retooling. I think this is like the ongoing theme every week with at least one of our stories. Why this has been going on forever? We have the same problems with the system that we've
Yeah.
always had. At some point, do we have to look at irresponsible parents, addict parents, and such, and say, look, you struck out at the beginning here. Uh, your kids are in a good place over here. It's not healthy for them to keep bouncing back and
Oh
forth
my
between
God.
your addictness and a home that somebody actually does want to take care of them. Can't we just say game over to some of these parents earlier on? Like, if you weren't ready then, you're not ready now, and even if you are ready now, how should we trust you? Why should we trust you? Because I'm gonna guess more
Exactly.
times than not, it doesn't necessarily work out in the benefit of the children. But
No.
there seems to be so many rights for people simply because they were the one who had the egg or the sperm to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. This is another, I've got all these areas I'm
Oh,
passionate
yeah.
about. This is another one I'm
Yes.
passionate about. And the problem is there was a poorly done study in the 1970s, right? We're
Mhm.
going way back in time here, that indicated back in the 60s that children who were placed with biological parents did better than children that were in foster care. And again, there's so many variables
Yeah.
here. The
Like,
study has since been taken apart and criticized that it wasn't well done. It
yeah.
doesn't apply to current times. But the laws in the courts were adapted to support the biological parents. There is a bias legally for that.
Hmm.
And this is one of the things that I think why CPS workers have the burnout they have,
Hmm.
because legally they are forced to try to reunify the family. Reunification of the family is the first priority. And so they come up with all these plans and ways to get the parents in parenting classes, which don't work for these kind of folks. It,
No.
it does no good. And then they are directed by their agencies who answer to the law that you've got to try to keep getting these parents back with their families. And it's a nightmare. I used to take these cases, and I was, the therapist for the child
Hmm.
at the time. So I saw a lot of kids in the 90s. And one of the things that burned me out was when I was involved in one of these cases. It was clear to me, having the mother come in, that this woman should never be alone with this child. He had been severely injured by her, and she did not have the capacity to parent. And I kept writing reports indicating this. Eventually, it was overruled. She got at least partial custody back, and then the child was killed. And that case gave me PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, I dreamed of him for years, and it was just horrifying. And I stopped working with children.
Yeah.
And that was for my own mental preservation.
Yeah.
I would work with teens, but not with little kids. There were just so many cases like that. And so, again, we need to take some action, probably. How do we change the bias of the court at this
Mhm.
point? This is more of a legal question, so I'm not sure how to do it. But we need to update here.
Yeah.
Things are not going well, and it's just nightmarish.
Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks